Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike and Marty on the beat. Mike and Marty. Mike and Marty on the beat.
We're on, and it's welcome to the feed. It's a surprise here this morning. It's one of those
We
days.
haven't done that for a while.
Yeah, it's Mike and Marty. Well, good morning, Rockingham. It's September 8th. Here we are on the feed with a lack of feedback, and so
It's been a while since we Zoomed. We got used to having in-studio guests, and we're
yeah,
back to Zoom,
and
which
so
is
we're
cool.
spoiled.
We're spoiled.
So it's Mike and Marty, and Marty has local events.
Just reminding everybody, classic movie night tonight is Dirty Dancing, sponsored by Tom Call Excavation. I have a feeling that's going to be a very well-attended classic
think
movie
so,
night.
too.
Yeah. That was just it was a classic movie. On September 19th, which is a Sunday afternoon, from 3 to 5 p.m. at Stage 33 Live, which is down where Wool Radio is and Chris Sherwin's Glass Studio, they're going to have a Songwriters Circle. So it's 4 songwriters: Pat Dedona, Jan Sheehy, who everyone knows from the Milkhouse Heaters, George Nostrin, who everybody knows from, I think he had a band.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of his band, but he's
But
local.
he played
and-
out of Rutland for a long time,
Yep.
and now he's just more local again,
Yep.
I think.
and then Felicity Hazelton. So should be a fun little afternoon event. It's nice to see that live music is coming back
Yes,
to
it
the
is.
area,
Amazing.
and it's a nice kind of a fairly good sized venue, so there can
Yeah.
be social distancing and.
Yeah, there's definitely room to social
Yeah.
distance there. It's very nice.
So, and then on the following Sunday, on September 26th, Main Street Arts is having an open house. They're actually getting ready to launch their fall programming. We had them in, probably a couple months ago. We had some of the artists come in and talk, and then we had the director come in, or one of the board of directors.
Right, we've
director.
had a couple in.
So they are ready to launch their fall programs with, there's art classes, there's movement classes. Go to their website, www.mainstreetarts.org, or attend the open house, and you can meet the arts faculty, and you can tour the actual building, and that's from 4 to 6 p.m.
That's great.
And we're very happy that Mike is here this week and did not get attacked by the
Rabid raccoon. Man,
That is
those
like
everywhere.
just scary.
It was, but I think that was more down in your neighborhood.
It was more down in my
That's right.
neighborhood, and I wish the person that got attacked a very speedy recovery, because that's just
Yes.
scary. I don't know if this is a good segue or not.
I don't know if this is a good segue.
But at 6:30 p.m. this evening is a WNESU meeting on Fact TV. So
Yes,
if anyone wants to,
that is an important
attend.
meeting that everyone should pay attention to, because I don't know if people were aware, but last week the superintendent and the assistant superintendent resigned suddenly, and now they're trying to put the pieces back together, and there was a whole bunch of stuff. So it could be an interesting meeting, especially in the beginning in the public comment section. I'm sure there'll be people zooming in and being irate. And
I'm
could be
sure.
Fact
How
TV
about-
at
how
its
about-
best.
How about people just being kind?
No.
How about that?
No, can't have that.
Can't have that. It's not.
No.
It doesn't make good news.
On a totally unrelated, and I wasn't going to bring this up, but this Friday in Guilford.
Oh no! Is it the Guilford Turnip Festival?
No, and
Uh-oh.
I missed it. It was last week, and then I missed it. I'm so upset. But this Friday in Guilford, I have to look up the exact location, but Ruchi Coochie and the Ragtime Shepherd Kings are playing.
Okie dokie. I'm pretty sure that Deb and Haley are
I'm sure they're
badly
like,
writing
"Whoa."
it down on
All
their
right,
calendars.
let's go.
On their
All right, so
calendars.
today's guests are Hailee, Galandak-Cochran, and Galandak-Cochran.
Galandak-Cochran.
Yes, and Deb Witkus from Greater Falls Connections and Friends for Change. And let's see, who's going to start up on your side? Deb?
I think I'll start first. Thank you, Marty and Mike, for giving us this opportunity to just let the community know what we've been up to and all the wonderful things we're going to be able to continue to do in the upcoming years. And it's really great to have Hailee Galandak-Cochran. Took me a while to get your name straight, but after years of practice. Yeah, and we have an incredible and unique partnership with Friends for Change where we get to co-dream and grow and really do what I like to term as trauma-transformed prevention, which means, we are recognizing and responding to trauma, but we're also not making our work about what happened to you, but we all the work that we do is about, who are you? Where are your superpowers hidden? And how can we create a healing community and spaces and places so, you can rise to the top with your own dreams and really break generational trauma cycles, which often ends in, repeating the cycle and also substance use, misuse, and disorder. So that's what we like to do. And I guess I'll hand it over to Hailee and we could talk about the amazing summer that we had. So passing to Hailee.
Yeah. So this summer was incredible. We got the opportunity to, we applied for and got fully funded through Vermont After School, a grant program they had called Summer Matters, which allowed us to rent some space at the Compass School. So props to the Compass School for collaborating with us. We were able to bring on some of their students plus our students. So we had just over 30 kids this summer, wow, which was incredible. 100% free programming, trauma transformed programming about, connecting and reconnecting after COVID, or, this summer, not at post-COVID, but all the stress that came along with the first wave and, students feeling disconnected at school and in the community. We were really able to just focus on being together, reconnecting, creating healing spaces and sharing joy. We really felt like this summer was a lot about suspending reality and just being able to be together and feel joy in a world where it's hard to sometimes. So we did lots of things. We went on field trips. Some of our kids went hiking for the first time. We went hiking. Lots of play and joy sharing, but then we also really focused on our deep circles, which maybe Debbie want to talk a little bit more about.
Sure.
But it's a process that we've developed over the years. The kids call them deep circles, but they're rooted in restorative justice.
Yes, so part of our trauma transformed prevention is to invite folks in to have a safe place where you can share your truth, your stories. You could share your struggles. It's healing, but it's also empowering and validating. And it's also where we learn and grow together. And so the kids call them deep circles. And we are very grateful to the Greater Falls Community Justice Center because they actually provided us all with the initial training. And we've kind of made it our own in the sense where figuring out, how do you do this in a way where a kid who spent, a year at the retreat can be able to show up, or somebody, like over the summer, one of our kids lost a parent. How can we do this in a way that is so gentle and affirming and healing? And we've really been able to do that primarily because we listen to the families we serve. And, the wonderful thing about restorative justice practices is what also is that, sometimes when there's trauma, there's drama. So we use those also as a tool to, address conflicts. And we always say that, and the kids actually repeat it back to us. Drama comes from trauma. Drama comes from trauma. And it kind of puts it in the place where it belongs. When you grow up, and you experience trauma, you may be very reactive. Your brain may be structured and wired differently. And so we need some practice and, working on how do you show up and communicate? You know, how do you work through conflicts? And in a way that actually humanizes each of the participants. So yeah, it's one part of kind of how we do this, not just with Friends for Change, but a lot of our community events are based on community building circles. And those in and of themselves have helped us to really address stigma and shame around substance use, generational substance use, and trauma. And one memory that I have of one of our last community events pre-COVID was Officer Thaddeus Buckley, after we had done the circle, came over to me and said, "This was amazing. I learned things I never would have even come close to understanding. Like, we see the families or the situation from this perspective, and because we listen to the stories and the experiences of these kids who are impacted by substance use disorder, it's given me a brighter, a more hopeful, and a more compassionate understanding of how complex this issue is." And he also said, like, we should actually have, community circles with the police departments. And that's something we're hoping to do in the future.
Deb,
And it's been great thus far to work with Chief Bemis.
does that kind of lead nicely into talking about the grant that you all just received? Because I think that's
Sure.
it's a connecting grant. Can you define what the CARA grant stands for?
Yes, wish me luck on this. It's a Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act, which was passed a few years ago. And that grant, we wrote it so that we can actually bring more trauma-transformed prevention to other organizations, to also be engaging younger families so we can get in there earlier and heal some of the trauma. Excuse me. We also will be running trauma-transformed focus groups, which is a pretty amazing tool that Greater Falls Connections, with the assistance of Equity Solutions, created. So that we actually get to the heart of what the issues are, what the barriers are, what are the accessibility issues are for, like, whether it be mental health or any other type of social service support. Because there are barriers, especially if your family's been impacted by substance use, misuse, or having a full-blown disorder. The shame and the stigma, just really can be paralyzing when it comes to reaching out for help. So we're looking forward to that, because the folks, these members of our community have expertise and knowledge that will help us all to come together and heal as a community.
So what is the
So
focus
that's
of the?
that's a 5-year grant. Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry.
No, you actually just sort of started answering. It's a 5-year grant with, is there going to be programming, or how do you see what you're doing with the grant?
Sure. So since we have had a lot of, according to the community, we've seen a lot of success that Greater Falls Connections has been able to do. And we do this with other partners where we kind of, really try to create this, a strength-based approach to creating community change versus you're broken, something happened to you, let's just talk about your trauma. Like, we're really trying to bring that more in, integrate it more at the community level. So there will be some programming, but we're really going to be utilizing a systems approach, a systems lens approach. So, for example, we have started the work last year of partnering with the WN.
Oops. I think we just lost Deb for a moment. Maybe Hailee, you could jump in.
I think she's coming back, but yeah, so she's talking about systems lenses and partnering with the WNESU, and yeah, trying to take an approach where I believe.
Thank you, Hailee.
Oh, there you are.
She's back.
Yeah, we're having some connectivity issues here in the office today, so please accept my apologies. And I just have to say the coffee is kicking in.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, we've started to develop some wonderful partnerships to bring trauma transform practices, with the police department, providing opportunities for them to actually, develop relationships with, community members whose houses they've shown up at.
Nice. So it sounds, Deb, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like maybe the model is changing, or maybe it was always that way with.
Sorry, I'm going to let Hailee speak a little bit more. It appears that my hotspot is not working
It's not
very
so
well,
hot.
and I apologize for that.
Okay. Maybe Hailee can field this one. It sounds to me with the trauma transformed prevention, it sounds like it's
it looks
a more
like
empowering
it looks like
model.
Hailee might be having a similar problem.
Whoops.
I think she's
Can you
all
hear
right.
us, Hailee?
I can. I'm
Okay.
good.
So it sounds like with the trauma transformed prevention that while you acknowledge the trauma, you don't necessarily allow the trauma to define who the person is. So you're helping the person be more empowered, figure out who they are beyond their trauma. Is that a good assessment of this kind of, is it a new approach, or is it always how it's been?
I think that's a great question about, is it a new approach? And I think, we've learned how we do what we do through years of relationships with folks. And so, it's not just about the trauma. It's about focusing on the dreams and the bigger picture. And, I know from my own experience, like experiences in my life that were traumatic, rather than focusing on them as like something that happened to me, something that's holding me back or a barrier in my life, and through Greater Falls Connections, my relationship with Deb, I've been able to like reframe that as a strength. And so that is something that I can pull on as a tool now to build a world that I want to see. I think what you're saying, Marty, about being empowering is really true. And, the vision is really, hey, let's connect with the pain that exists in our lives, in our communities, and our families, but not like dwell in that. Move beyond it and maybe use it as a fuel. Because when we see that pain, it's not just individuals. A lot of times it's systems and it's larger stuff. Homelessness in my family maybe is connected to generational poverty, which, could be connected to, my family being immigrants and coming and not having literacy. So like a lot of it it's historical, but it's also systemic. And so rather than focusing on individuals, we're looking at how can we change these systems in our world, in our community, so that we can all live our best lives and focus on the dreams that we have and be our best selves.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Hailee, do you this has been probably, and I don't want to underestimate, I would think like 5 years that at least you've been doing this with Friends for Change, and do you see a process, a learning process where you're going through iterations of change, and it sounds almost like you're becoming even activist focused as opposed to just being individually focused. And I don't know if that's the right word, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, Deb's been doing this work for 11 years at least, and then for Friends for Change 5 years. And through that time we've learned, and really, because the core of what we do is, hey, let's listen to the young people and their families, and what do they want to see in our community, what changes do we want as a group. And so through that we've learned, because we're like, it sounds like people are wanting like alternatives to mental health stuff. Okay, well, let's go get trained in intentional peer support. And so really the work we're trying to do, this trauma transformed work, is rooted in the needs of the community and learning from the community. So rather than coming in with like, hey, we have this vision for what it could look like. We're coming in with a witness together and being like, what do we want to build? And then through that, changing the work over time to meet folks where they're at. And of course, COVID changed a lot of that because, needs got even stronger, or there were already needs that our families were experiencing, and then the barriers and the challenges got worse with COVID. And so I think that, at least for me, was a huge learning experience. And how can we come together to get to as a group? An example of that I think of is like the Everyone Eats program. It's really rooted in like mutual aid and working together to make sure that our local businesses are doing all right, but that also everybody's having food with dignity that they can enjoy. So I think you're right, Mike. I agree that it's over time it's changed, and we've started to realize we want to be making impacts larger than just the individual.
Yeah. No, I was hearing that as you're talking, and I think it's a healthy change for the organization, but also it creates an external focus also. So it's an interesting, it's an interesting development.
So where is Friends for Change, like, where are you moving with now with the fall, now that school's back in session? How does your programming look for fall?
That's a great question. So we're we're trying to be reflective of COVID cases and numbers and be as safe as we possibly can. So right now we're back to primarily meeting outside in groups no larger than 15, because we don't know where the cases will go, and we really want to be safe. So we're kind of back into our nomadic lifestyle of being around in the community. So we're meeting 3 times a week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, after school in person, and then Thursdays online. Just continuing the work we've been doing of sharing joy, holding space, and working towards building a better community that we want to see. Now that the busyness of summer is over, we're going to be engaging and revamping the task force to build a youth/community center. And so we'll be doing a lot of work around that.
So we have about 2 minutes left. In that time, can you give us the contact information of how, if people want to get in contact with you, if they want to volunteer, if they want to be part of this, who would they contact and how would they get there?
Deb, I see you're reconnected. Do you want to go?
Yes, I moved to another building, so I'm so incredibly sorry for the connectivity issues. So Deb Witkus at greaterfallsconnections.org. You can private message us on Facebook if you want to get involved. And my phone number is 802-365-1324. Hailee.
Yeah, similarly, I see my email is up on the screen. Facebook is a great way to connect as well. Messenger. My phone number is 802-689-9663. We're always willing to collaborate, and if folks have questions and want to learn more, we would love to chat your ear off about what we do, how we do it. Or if folks have a vision for how they would want to get involved with some of our kids or families, we can help with that connection too.
All right.
And I'm just going to throw a quick plug in that if you actually go to either the website for Greater Falls Connections or I believe the Facebook page, so maybe you don't have the time to donate to those causes, but maybe you have monetary donations. It is always helpful. Both agencies run on grant funding, and it's sometimes hard. Grants are competitive. So if you want to be supportive, there's an option to donate on, I believe, both the Facebook page and the website to Greater Falls Connections, and then they're connected to Friends for Change as well.
Great.
So.
And I think that's it for this week. I want to thank both of you for coming on. It was great seeing you again, great talking with you, and I hope you'll come back.
Yes.
And that's it for this week. We'll see you in a week where Gail Golick is
Gail
coming on.
Golick is coming on next week with talking about her podcast.
All right. That's it, fellas,
Thank
folks.
you.
Bye.
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 Local news, politics, business, sports, arts, music. Mike